society. We all know there's something wrong, and we've known it all along. Sincerity, you may think there's no one else till they put you on a shelf. Society, they attack us dead in line, nothing past the other mind.
Good afternoon, welcome to Amazing Conspiracy Realist Channel. This is De-Occulted episode 4 with Brian Cirillo, yours truly. Hope everyone's doing as well as they possibly can be in this dark New World Order hellscape we find ourselves in. Seems like the walls are closing in on society, and the people that were supposed to be waking up have gone further and further into mind control and egoic attachment to institutionalized belief systems. And all they want to do is they don't really want to listen to anything you have to say. They want to try to educate you into their poison worldview, and they think that they're waking you up, but they're actually trying to get you to go back to sleep and take the poison pill of mind control and deception. And what I've been seeing lately is just people have undenying trust, pure devotion to the Nazi-controlled medical and scientific industry and paradigm. And it's just people will just say, I heard from a nurse that you're wrong about what coronavirus really is, or whatever it is, about the fact that pharmaceutical drugs are poison, and they're not interested in healing the mind, body, and spirit all as one. They don't understand that it's your life force energy that needs to be well before any of the organs or systems of the body can be well. It's like the life force is the electrical power that generates them all. So if that's in a state of dis-ease, there's going to be disease. Not to mention the GMO food, the chemtrails, and the pharmaceuticals themselves. And I've seen the sickest people that I know, the ones who are always in and out of hospitals and having all these problems, and that they're the ones who live and die by what doctors and nurses and pharmaceutical companies tell them. They live and die by that knowledge. They try to shove that knowledge down people who have a holistic understanding and worldview of health. They try to shove it down our throat, and they're like in and out of, see how sick I am? Don't you see what could happen? I need these pharmaceuticals so bad. I'm so sick all the time. Don't you see how important it is? It's just like, I see that I'm fine, and I have a holistic perspective, and I know that, how I feel and whether or not my psyche and spirit is balanced determines my health. I know that. And I try to be conscious about what I'm eating, even though I'm not perfect. But guess what? I still don't really get sick. The more confident I am, the more connected I am, the more I'm doing the great work, the more connected I am to objective truth and spirituality and natural law, the more I'm protected from disease, and I don't feel bad saying that at all. And I have 100% in my heart. That's what I know. It's not even what I believe. So, it's very difficult these days to really get your point across to people. And I don't even even though it's my job, it's part of my job on this planet to try to wake people up and enlighten them. It's just, they're not interested. Their brains are too calcified to hear the message. It's like they want to, like, whenever any type of major world event happens and you go into investigating how it helps the dark New World Order agenda, people want to say, you're saying this event never happened. No, I'm saying it didn't happen the way the assholes in the media and the government and whoever else is involved, it's like, a cultural institution that isn't to be trusted. Whatever they're telling you is happening isn't the way it's happening. Whatever lies have been repeated to the brainwashed masses are not accurate. And so I want to try to correct those. They don't even want to correct those. They want to correct whatever they think you think, and then tune out when you're actually saying what you actually think, because they don't actually care, because it's all a defense mechanism for the truth that they hate. Nothing they hate more than the truth. Nothing they hate more than knowledge. And that's sad to say, and I'm going to probably offend some people, but unfortunately that is most people that I know personally. As much as I, respect them and loving them and care about them, and we have a lot of good times together, and I don't want to discount those or anything like that. I'm not saying don't enjoy friends and family, but there are going to be unpleasant experiences and miss that joy because people are just, they want to try to when they see someone has an alternative perspective, they want to try to educate you into the official version of events that's been passed down to them by the dark occult forces that they have no idea about, that they're not interested in knowing about at all. For the most part, I mean, some people are willing to bend in certain areas, certain areas of interest, like free energy technology. Some people will be right on board with that, and then when you talk about holistic health versus pharmaceutical, allopathic medicine, then they shut down and don't want to hear it. So it's impossible. Like sometimes I'd rather just almost not even try to convince anyone. Just my goal is to just you need to see how different my perspective is from yours, so that you know that there's no way that you can ever get through to me because I'm not in your level of mind control. But see, if you do that, then you'll be the one who's told that they're the ones who's closed-minded, and and no part of me feels in denial of truth. I've felt in denial of truth at certain times in my life, and like it almost made me sick. It made me physically and mentally sick. To feel that level of emptiness, and I knew that I had walked away from conspiratorial and occult knowledge, for a good number of years, like for 6 years straight. While I was in a relationship with somebody who didn't want anything to do with that stuff, and I conformed to their way because I didn't really care that much at that time. But see, being in denial of truth for that long made me care more about the truth, because I saw how empty and lost my soul really was without this information, without going through the process of de-occulting what the lies that have been, like I said, the lies have been repeated over and over and over again. And that's all it is, germ theory. But I definitely lean towards it being just another lie. It's repeated over and over and over and over again, and then the truth is not repeated over and over again. So people don't realize that an imbalanced psyche, an imbalanced brain, an imbalanced mind and heart is going to lead to disease. That's the cause of disease. Chemicals in the environment, like I said, and in GMO food and in toxic pharmaceuticals, that's going to lead to disease. That's it. Exosomes, things that are naturally occurring within your body, they're just things that were blamed for the disease by ignorant people who are not looking at it from a holistic perspective. Like 100 years ago, hundreds of years ago. I think it's over 100 years ago now that we've had that theory, and it's just people talk about diseases wiping out species in the wild, and I'm not 100% sure what the causal factors for that are, but I do know for a fact that germ theory is just a theory based on an assumption, and it gets repeated over and over and over again. So there's that. I'm not saying I claim to know it all, but there are certain things that I do know that call into question other areas. Anyway, so I just wanted to get that out there, just give people an update of, what I've been seeing, where I see people are at in consciousness. But without further ado, today I decided to do a De-Occulted episode on the film from 1992 called Society. Now, it's kind of an older film, and so I hope people are capable of taking in older films and stuff like that, and not don't worry too much about does it have the greatest special effects, or is it like the best acting. I mean, a lot of these dystopic type of fictional stories, I think the acting is pretty good, but it's not like over the top great. It's more about the overall, and sometimes the cheesiness is kind of funny. It adds a little bit of a comedic feel to these movies. Especially, I like these type of cheesy. Sometimes it's a little bit cheesy, this one, but it's a little bit more serious in terms of the actual message and the actual theme of the film. So I'll give a brief synopsis, and then I'll kind of go do a character outline here for you. So this movie, Society, centers around the protagonist, Bill Whitney, and he is played by a guy named Billy Warlock. There's a lot of unknown, C-list actors in this thing, so I'm not going to spend too much time on who's playing what. But so Bill Whitney, he lives in Beverly Hills. He comes from a very upper class, rich family, and so he's getting the sense that there is something terribly wrong with his family, his therapist, and the community at large, but he can't quite put his finger on it. His friend, Dave Blanchard, who's another major character in the story, he has a crush on Billy's sister, and was perving out in her room trying to record her, which is not cool. Do not advocate that. Trespassing, violating someone else's privacy. Shame on you, Dave Blanchard. But that's what he was doing. He was recording his sister. He was sitting in the girl's closet, recording her, seeing if she was gonna, I don't know, have sex or something. I don't know what he was recording her for, but that's what the guy was doing. And so he ends up, the parents come in to the sister's room, and he ends up taping them talking about an incest party that they're all invited to. And it's really disgusting. I mean, because the parents are talking about the party, and they're all going, and they talk about the rituals that are involved in the ceremony, and they don't talk about it like, they're not like saying this is what you're gonna do, and like they're not like speaking in like a vindictive, like scary, like foreboding kind of way about it. They're very, the father is like, he's almost talking to his daughter like it's like he's describing Christmas to her or something. Like he's just like, oh, he's talking in a very cheerful tone, and he goes, oh yeah, like first you're gonna take your clothes off, then your mom's gonna take her clothes off, and I'm gonna take my clothes off, and then the host is gonna come in. Then you gotta wait for the host. That's part of the fun. He's just like, oh, this is just fun time, happy hour, and again, these people are Beverly Hills. They're super, fake plastic life, materialistic, and just, super shallow. And so it's really creepy. It's super creepy, and so the perv that's trying to record his sister ends up realizing how perverted the entire family is. And then he gets freaked out, and he runs off and tries to find Billy to show him this recording. Now, Billy has been going to a psychologist just to talk about, why he gets these weird anxieties and paranoias, because he seems to have everything going for him. He's got, he's a great athlete at school. He's straight A student. Not that, really, never mind. But yeah, he's, you get the picture. All the girls think he's, the shit, and he's awesome and everything. And he's always getting, girls winking at him and like flirting with him and stuff. But he doesn't really. And then everyone that in the school thinks he's cool, wants to be him. He does have one, enemy, Ted Ferguson. That's his nemesis at the school. But for the most part, people like him in the community, but he just feels very creeped out by all the attention that he gets, and he just seems that there's something off about people. There's something terribly wrong with them. But of course, his psychologist, Dr. Cleveland, played by a guy named Ben Slack. This guy is a fat, disgusting, gluttonous slob. And he is very much Mr. Community, Mr. Collective, Mr. Always defending the consensus of the hive mind. And he's not a very good therapist, because when someone like Billy is being introspective and expressing what he really feels, and his paranoias and concerns about society, the therapist is just like, you're going to be don't worry, because he projects the wrong thing onto him. He's like, oh, you worried you won't be successful in society? It's just like, no, I'm creeped out by everyone in society. I think there's something wrong with them. And but I just can't put my finger on it, right? Because all throughout this story, Billy is trying to integrate his unconscious with his conscious, and he becomes more conscious as the story progresses, and he sees what's really going on and why he has this paranoia and suspicion that it's not coming from a place of pure insanity within his own head. It's actually legitimate, and we're going to see why that is. But So yeah, this therapist kind of, dismisses what he says and says, "Oh, you're just worried that you're not going to be successful, buddy. But I know you are. You're already successful." And then he even, under his breath, he says some cryptic things like, "You really deserve what's going to happen to you." Like, almost like if you're questioning, um, things that you're questioning, then you maybe deserve to be punished or something. That's almost what he was implying underneath the surface on that. So anyway, as the story progresses, Billy gets a hold of the tape from that his friend Blanchard made, and he hears what his parents and sister were talking about in the tape, and he is just like, okay, now the puzzle pieces are starting to fit together. Now I'm starting to understand why I'm creeped out and freaked out by everybody. And what actually is very interesting is, he'll get hallucinations, as he's interacting with his family, of them just like eating worms, or at one point his sister's boobs are on her back while she's in the shower, and then the next minute they're not. And that's just a weird special effect. I'm not saying that really happens, but what does really happen, and we're going to get to, is that he finds out that his entire community and his family is just, they're part of this cult of interbreeding bloodlines that is cannibalistic and incestuous. Sound familiar? Of course, and so it's definitely echoes, the reality of what the dark occult mind controllers of our world are, and their lower level Satanists. And if anyone studied, I highly recommend, if you've never studied Jay Parker's work, or Cathy O'Brien's work, or Arizona Wilder's work, then definitely check them out, because they're specialists. They've actually are experiencers of multi-generational satanic incest-based abuse. And that's definitely, it seems like, I don't know if the director, there's no way to me in my mind that he didn't know about that phenomena, um, because that is really what this movie is about, in all honesty. And I don't really see how someone that is ignorant of that knowledge can actually watch this movie and have it be as impactful as someone who is educated into these occult matters. So someone that doesn't know anything about satanic ritual abuse or multi-generational incest-based abuse is going to be, just see this as another ridiculous, over-the-top horror movie. And it just happens to be about a cult of cannibals that really run the town. So, and then so that they'll hear they'll hear true conspiratorial research, and then it'll be fictionalized in their mind because of a movie like this. So that's the downside of Hollywood movies that are, whistleblowing the truth, is that they might be just putting this out there to fictionalize what really goes on in people's minds. And it works, because someone can just say, like, everything that you've ever heard from anybody in the truth movement is just based on this movie. None of it's true. But if you actually listen to the testimony, and listen with an open mind and heart, and realize that there is physical evidence for what they say too, that Ted Gunderson and John DeCamp, they've done a lot of research into the physical hard evidence for, satanic ritual abuse and human trafficking rings that are, embedded in schools and all kinds of government and cultural institutions. Even I sometimes wonder if I was used in some type of mind control experiments when I was younger. I grew up on Long Island, which is infamous for mind control experimentation. The Nazis were brought over to what is it called, Brookhaven National Labs during the 40s, and people like Stuart Swerdlow and Al Bielek, they've talked about being taken underground in Montauk, and different types of Tesla technologies were used to see how they interact with human consciousness, to try to create mind amplifiers and radionic equipment that basically, there's certain radionic equipment that is used by police and so-called criminal investigative services, where they can literally beam some type, it's like a square electrical device, and where they can beam like electricity from that device, and it measures thought patterns. So they can have a thought and then point the device at you, and their thought will transfer into your head. And so your thoughts really aren't your own if that type of technology does exist. I mean, not all of your thoughts are not your own, but they can actually implant thoughts into your mind. Um, and I could prove it. My roommate and I, we were just watching an episode of Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, and he interviews a law enforcement of someone who's involved in the development of law enforcement technology, and the guy pulled out this device, showed it to Jesse Ventura, and explained the official use of it. It's just for criminals. It's not for the average citizen. We wouldn't use it for that. But are you really going to believe him? I mean, this guy was definitely, he had this very creepy vibe to him, and he was smirking and laughing, and just got a kick out of the fact that that he develops these technologies that are so great for controlling people and spying on people. And I found that episode of a Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura on the Arc. I believe it's the episode on surveillance, and it's on the Arc drive. And so you should definitely get that Arc drive from Mark Passio and look it up, because I don't know if I can really find that anywhere else. So check it out. It's on the Arc, Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. And it's the episode on surveillance. There's not many episodes in the Arc on that. There's a couple. I don't know if the whole season or the whole show is, but Mark's got a few great gems of that show on there, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I know it sounds like a crazy technology, but anyway. But yeah, I'm not totally see something. I don't even trust, my certain elements of my media community growing up. Because of course you're inside a government institution. You're a little kid. You don't know any better. Someone could say, we're just going to take you out of class to do this activity over here, and it could be serving a purpose that's for mind control and experimentation, just like you're a lab rat. And so, and people who are not ignorant about World War II, and there's no theory required. Nazi scientists were brought over here to continue the eugenics and mind control experiments that they started in the concentration camps. Okay, does that mean that we lost the war? It might mean that. It might mean that we lost, and that the country is being destroyed from the inside by the Axis powers. And we also lost the Revolutionary War, and the country is being destroyed from the inside by the crown. So at the end of the day, these are all just offshoots of the one big cult that controls all of it. And their mechanism for control is getting into high positions of power within the cultural institutions, lying to people, suppressing knowledge, claiming things are true that aren't true, until people repeat the lies over and over and over and over and over again, until the mass amount of people is totally brainwashed. They believe the opposite of what's true. You try to tell them what's true, they'll try to educate you into what's false, and you're left being ostracized and being treated like you're the ignorant one who needs to be woke. So they're trying to wake you up into going back to sleep. That's what my life mainly, that's a big part of the experience that I'm having right now. So I sympathize with this Billy guy, although I don't think that my own friends and family are in a cult of cannibals. So guys, if you're watching, I'm not trying to say that that's you, but in this case, in this movie, and for a lot of other people, especially Jay Parker, who lived in Arden, Delaware, and his family, who did not hide that they were a part of a cult of pedophile cannibals, they were very open about it. So check out Jay Parker's work, and you'll have a massive education as to what dark occultism is. You'll have a massive education about what satanic ritual abuse and multi-generational incest-based abuse is, and you'll be able to watch this movie with educated eyes. So yeah, lo and behold, Billy gets the tape and shows it to his psychologist. The psychologist isn't really interested in hearing it. He says, what are you talking about? What tape? What's the big deal? What do you want to listen to this tape for? You're really riled up, of course. Anytime someone like this pop psychologist asshole sees somebody with raw, true emotions, they don't want to hear the explanation for why that person is feeling that way. They just want to say, you're not totally calm and docile, so something must be wrong with you. Let's get you on some medication. So Billy's like, nah, fuck that. Listen to this fucking tape. And so Billy gets out of there, goes in the next day, and he says to the therapist, he asks him if he listens to the tape, and the therapist goes, "Are you aware that what you're doing is illegal?" Calling out the fact that his parents were recorded without their consent. So he's focusing on that and not on the fact that the tape is actually his parents talking about all this fucked up shit with the cult that they're involved in. So, he skirts around that, and then this is the scene where Doc reveals in a very subtle way that he is a member of this cult and he sympathized with it. He just considers it to be an integral part of society. Like he's using the term society in place of the word cult in this context. So, the therapist doesn't want to admit whether he listened to the tape. His response almost implies that he hasn't. And then he goes, "You're crazy." And then he plays a portion of the tape where the dad is saying, "We're proud of your brother. It's too bad he couldn't be with us." So it's just a portion of the tape where it just sounded like, "Oh, Dad wanted you to come to the party and he wishes you could have been there. He's very proud of you." But then Billy's like, nah, fuck that. He says, "Rewind that tape and then you'll hear what they're really talking about." And then the doc doesn't want to do it. He grabs it out of his hand. And this is what the doc says as he's grabbing the tape out of his hand. He says, "Billy," and this is exactly how he says it too. I wish that I have to learn how to splice movie clips into videos. But for right now, I'll just do an impression of what he sounded like. "Billy, people are what they are. Now you have to learn to accept that. And you have to learn to accept society's rules. And if you don't, bad things happen." So he's not worried about, what's actually objectively right and wrong under natural law. He's just saying, if you record people who are and they happen to be your parents, and you record them talking about being in an incest cult, you're the bad one for not respecting the rules of society. And trying to expose them. Now, maybe you could make the argument that you shouldn't record people without their consent. That would be against natural law, and that is correct. But in this case, if they're really doing something awful and totally in opposition to natural law, like evil to an extreme of, incest and cannibalism, then you have the responsibility to expose that information if you come across it. So, but that's really what I think the doc is scolding him for, is just like, mind your own business, let people be the satanic cannibals that they are. It's all about diversity and inclusion, right? So he says he's got to accept society's rules, and then he goes on to say something that's extremely revealing, and it has to do with the right to rule by blood. This old, ancient, outdated, disgusting ideology of the royals and the bloodline families. That this is what they believe. They're dark eugenicists. They want to propagate their awful traits in society and make sure that other people are also exhibiting those traits, and they can manipulate that through the bad programming, bad food, bad medicine. They can implement that change in the genetic structure of the human race through those means. Because if it's bad programming and toxic food and toxic chemicals are being put into the human biological computer, because we are like computers in that we process information, we are programmable. If that bio software is programmed with bad information, the output on the screen of life is going to be bad. In the aggregate, that's going to be the result. That's how epigenetics works. It's different than hereditary genetics. There is malleability there, and it doesn't matter what anybody that's in the medical field who's had that knowledge being occulted from them has to say about it. They're wrong. They're ignorant about epigenetics. So just stop right there if you don't understand or you think what I'm saying is not true. Because what I'm saying is correct. And it's not my ego that's saying that. It's just the knowledge of a subject that has been held back to control you. So anyway, he goes on to say, some people make the rules and some people follow the rules. It's a question of what you're born to. So then he tries to prescribe drugs to Billy again, and he says, you could always trust me, and then he destroys the tape. At which point, Billy gets the fuck out of that office and tries to go meet up with Blanchard to get another copy of the tape. And when he shows up at Blanchard's being hauled away in a stretcher, and there's a cop there smirking at the scene of the crime, holding the tape, basically saying, we got you. We know what you were trying to do. We got tipped off from your asshole psychologist. And he didn't even have to admit that that's what happened. It was just obvious, once they saw him smirking and holding the tape, you're not getting this back, So, but yeah, I don't want to give spoiler alerts. Eventually he does find out that, he goes back and confronts his family, and he just tests them a little bit, and just to see, what their reactions would be to his best friend's death. And then their reaction was just cold and just, we don't want to talk about that right now. That's negative. It's just like, I just told you my best friend that I've known since I was a baby has died. And they're just like, we don't care. We don't want to know. So then he knows something's up. And then at some point he does end up getting captured, and they take him to the ritual where he witnesses Blanchard, who actually didn't die, who was severely injured. They didn't take him to they didn't take him to the hospital. They took him to the ritual where he was eaten alive, and that's where you get all the cheesy 80s or 90s gore effect happening in this movie. It's but that's, I just think it was the statements of what's most profound is the statements of Dr. Cleveland, the psychologist. I think that's the most revealing, because he's just basically saying we're in this cult, we own society, and you got to respect our rules. It doesn't matter how immoral we are. And it's just an interesting process that Billy is going through as he's becoming conscious of this, because his hallucinations about the weird shit that he saw, his family doing, I think that reveals that he may have been seeing strange things his whole life living with these people, but he always had a split personality about it. So it doesn't reveal this in the book, but I know from studying trauma-based mind control that when the kids are put through these horrible situations and rituals, and they have to grow up in this environment, it traumatizes their brain to a point where they split off into different personalities. I mean, this is where we get multiple personality disorder from. And again, if society wasn't ignorant about trauma-based mind control, there would be no question as to where that actually comes from. But you have to listen. If you even bring it up, multiple personality, split personality, then you got to hear the drivel again from people who are ignorant of this knowledge about trauma-based mind control and how trauma serves to fragment the brain. And so that's what's happening to Billy, but he's coming of age now, and he's starting, and so that paranoia, that undergirding anxiety was his unconscious trying to make it self-conscious as he got older and recognized what he was in, what society really is. So it wasn't just his parents and his psychologists that were involved in this cannibal cult. When he gets captured, he wakes up and sees that it's his ex-girlfriend's there, his some of his other classmates are there. Ted Ferguson's there, and Ted Ferguson is someone who is his nemesis at the school. And one of the most painful things about that tape for Billy was that his sister and his mother were talking about how excited they were to have sex with this guy at the orgy, and stuff like that. And that was just a very disturbing and hellish kind of experience. So overall, this is a movie that's it does reveal a lot about the inner workings of the dark occult conspiracy, but it's more, instead of just exposing the deep state and the surveillance state and Big Brother like so many other films do, like They Live, this is really looking at like what community look like, the dark side of what a community or a collective can be. And there are certain whole communities that are run by cults just like this. And you know, I look at the symbolism in even the town that I live in now, and it's just, and I can see that there's a presence of this type of cult here, you know. And it's just, it's a matter of using that sun symbolism of the black sun, and obelisks and all kinds of, you know, you'll see pentagrams. You walk down the park, there's a park right down the street from me. You'll see obelisks, pentagrams, um, suns, you know, Masonic symbolism everywhere. Um, so, you know, I know what that's all about. You know, I know that me and Dom talked about last time how there are some positive aspects to Freemasonry at the lower level. But when you're talking about, you know, you know, the intermingling with that and government, and, you know, the connection between, you know, the symbolism that's used, you know, it's just, and it's just my intuition and me being able to pick up on the energy of the town that tells me that, you know, there is some cult like activity right here where I live. um and so it takes a certain sense, like a sixth sense almost, to be able to pick up on that dark energy of the cults just like this that surround us. And they're all connected to the one big cult. Just look at Mark Passio's work. He doesn't say that when he was involved in Satanism that it was just a couple of metalheads who wanted to burn some shit in the woods. That was not it. It was people from all different walks of life, from all different cultural backgrounds, from all different age groups, from all different income brackets. They were there to do the dark work and be in the dark path. And, you know, this whole concept of like that Pink Floyd has of, you know, helping to build the wall. I see that as like a Freemasonic type of allegory for, like, it's the dark Masons are dark builders. So they're building the dark New World Order through their compliance with these cultural institutions, and by working for these cultural institutions, believing the lies that are repeated over and over again, following the orders without question because of the lies that they believe and the overall fundamentally flawed axiom that they've accepted into their mind, that they're coming from a base of ignorance. And so everything they build on top of that is pure ignorance. But then they get confirmation from the other ignorant masses, and it's just it becomes a surrogate womb of just bullshit, mind control, and deception. And it's just like a satanic just orb of just pure evil that people are just so connected to in their minds and hearts, and they're just, you know, but their empathy still is there. There is a genuine spark within a lot of people, but it's all oriented, you know, toward the dark side without them realizing it, because they believe the dark side is the light side. Because again, we're talking about a cult of light here. And so they'll use sun symbolism, like coronavirus itself is a, you know, it connotates solar rays. And so whenever you're dealing with any type of light symbolism or allegory, that is talking about knowledge. So it's about the false knowledge, the false light of knowledge that's projected out by the dark occult priest class, and that is what sucks humanity in to you know, the dark path. And people believe in moral relativism. Mark Passio has gone to, he's done man on the street types of what do you call it? He's done certain surveys, I guess, where he asks like 100 people or like 200 people in Philadelphia where he lives, you know, if they believe that morals are relative. And he said that 100% of people said that morals are relative, and objective right and wrong doesn't exist. So I mean, that's where we're at. And so, yeah, I mean, that's basically, you know, what I have to say in regards. Definitely recommend people check out this film. It's very telling, and you know, it's so I think, you know, the characters I pretty much went over, who you know, the characters are. So like you got Bill, Dave Blanchard, and then one other character that I want to go into. I mean, I pretty much gave an overview of what this is about. But one thing I noticed that was an interesting scene was Bill's girlfriend. So he's in the midst of all that Bill was dealing with the tape and with the psychologist. He tries to talk to his girlfriend, who is desperate to go to Ted Ferguson's party, which is consequentially the same incest party that his family is going to, as creepy as that is. And his girlfriend hears that it's the coolest thing in the world, and she wants to go, and she doesn't understand why he doesn't want to go. But so he can't even explain this major event that's taking place in his life. So he tries to explain to his girlfriend what is happening. She's more concerned with going to Turd Ferguson's party, which is the same guy who's having sex with his sister on the incest tape. So he tried to pour his heart out to his girlfriend and give the one he loves the most important revelation in his life about, what his life is really like with living with these people. And she's just mad that he doesn't, because he doesn't even get a chance to explain that, because he's just like, will you shut up for a second and stop focusing on this stupid party? And she's like, how dare you call Turd's party stupid? And she gets triggered by her one-track mind and says that it's all, and then he goes, is that all you think about is parties and social status? And, and this is sadly the majority of women really do care only about that. It seems like, and people can get as offended as they like by hearing me say it. It's not a sexist statement. It's just the current human condition. This is what the result is manifesting itself to be. So this character has such the typical attitude of a socially engineered woman. She doesn't care, or man, socially engineered person, typical attitude of a socially engineered person. She doesn't care or even believe that Bill possibly could have anything important to say at all. Even on a good day, it doesn't seem like she would even think that he has anything of value to really convey. His passion and need to be heard is ignored or met with deep hostility. And she doesn't even stick around to even hear the details of why he's so upset, and if it's a legitimate form of anger. So if she did, that would give, if she did stick around and actually hear him out, she might have it might give her deeper meaning to her own life if she saw, what the people in her town really were and what they were involved in. She would take a step back for herself and see what was really going on. Luckily, there is a character in this film, another girl who has a crush on Billy. She really is a character that kind of sees through it and is trying to, support Billy throughout this whole thing. At first as a friend, and then eventually they hook up at the end. I don't want to give anything away, but so she could have, if she heard him out and really took seriously what he had to say, the girlfriend, she could have helped. She could have been like the girl at the end and helped him take down this cult, or at least help to expose it. But she walks away having no clue what she really walked away from, and it's just the attitude of, I can't get what I want from you, so I don't want to deal with you. You're not real, and neither are your problems. And she doesn't love him or even support him as a friend. But the other female in this saga, and I wish I could remember her name, but she is very dark-haired, beautiful, and so she's definitely more supportive of Billy, and they end up, getting captured, but then fighting back and escaping from the ritual, even though poor Blanchard's being eaten alive. So that was just a quick synopsis of a movie that I think people should check out, especially those who can see it from an awakened perspective. So I want to update people on what we're doing, what's coming up down the pike. Maria West will be, I'm going to be taping the interview with her on the 17th, so it should come out a few days after that. We're going to be discussing her book, F Wide Open, and really looking forward to having her on. And so that's coming up around the 17th. And I decided to that I'm only going to be doing De-Occulted and Beneath the Surface from now on. I've decided that I'm not really going to be giving readings for people. I'm not really ready to do that in my life yet. I need to study the arts, the esoteric arts a little bit more. And I'm just not sure if I really want to be giving people personal advice at this time of my life. I don't really, it's something that I'm kind of been forcing myself to do. And I don't really, it's not where my passion and drive is at the moment. So I want to try to focus on really getting occult information out there for people, showing people there are movies like this out there that are really revealing. And yeah, I want to focus more on the occult research part of it, or part of my journey. And I feel like that's going to be more effective at waking people up than, giving them relationship advice when I myself am not even probably the best person to be doing that at this time. So I admit it. And Light Occult Tarot Readings is going to be going away for right now. I'm going to be focusing on Amazing Conspiracy Realist channel and the 2 shows that I have for that. And I may come back to it. I may come back to doing divination at some point. Again, I mean, I still work with the cards in my personal life, and I still have a major interest in that subject as an occult study. And I am going to be doing stuff about tarot and astrology and astrotheology and Kabbalah on this show. There's tons of great books and great documentaries and great researchers out there who discuss these topics. And so that's really where I want to be, is educating people about what these, arts are really all about. So without taking up too much more of your time, I thank you for tuning in here at the Amazing Conspiracy Realist Network. Don't forget to turn off the fake news and get the fluoride out of your drinking water. Have a great night.
How long you pray makes no difference today. When a society divides how you'll pay. When finding the truth makes no difference to you. Any way you look at it, you're gonna get screwed. You lose.